I don't know how this is going to work because you're actually really far away. Hopefully, one, you can hear me, and two, you can see me. I wanted to talk about something that when you're a kid, you take for granted, I think. But when you get older, you realize just how crazy it is. It's time. Like, genuinely. The one thing that I feel as you get older, you becomes more apparent is how fast time passes. When you're a kid, it's easy to get bored, or it used to be. I don't know what it's like nowadays because everything's in your face, technology, screens, it gives you everything. But back when I was a kid, you could get bored real easy. I kind of miss that as an adult. It's not something that happens very often. Even when I'm not doing something, if I just literally take myself off to do nothing, that feels like it's something that I'm actively choosing to do. And as a result, you don't get bored. There's no boredom there just for sitting down to do nothing. It's actually peaceful, which is, it's a good thing. But that level of boredom where your brain just doesn't know what it wants to do and often leaves you feeling like time is dragging so slowly is definitely something I feel that you take for granted when you're a kid, or used to. And I say that because as you get older, it just feels that time just passes by so fast. We fill as much of our day as we can with things to do, and if we don't choose to fill them with things to do, just because of the way life is, there is always something to do. And as a result of that, if you're always busy doing something, then time always moves. And I notice it because it's something that I struggle to sleep, which is bizarre in itself because I can be really tired and then, you get into bed and as soon as your head hits that pillow, your brain's like, doof, wide awake. And it's like, you look at why or what you're doing and it just feels like every, not even minute of the day, but there is always something to be done. And if you have a 5-second stop to breathe, it's the end of the day. So, what happens? I think as an adult as well, because you've got so much that you need to do of your responsibilities, your time that is your own is so small. I think that's one of the reasons why I don't really sleep too great at night, is because the hours that are potentially mine to do what I want with are those hours that realistically I should be asleep. But it feels like, well, that's the only time that I've got where, I don't have to sort of deal with other people, or you don't have to just work or whatever. You can choose to do your own thing. So it's that time that you choose to do your own thing, which realistically should be the time that you're sleeping. And there's just not enough hours in the day when you're an adult. And I don't know if that's because you fall into a pattern of what do you call it, where it becomes something that you've done all the time. Therefore, it becomes almost autonomous. You get used to it, kind of thing. So I remember when I used to work at the foundry and we'd be doing something new and it'd take a bit of time to do it and something. And you could be working away and be like, man, I feel like I've been working at this for ages. And then you look at the time and it's like 10 minutes has passed. And it's just that change in your habit or that change in your daily routine, whereas something new becomes something that's a bit slower. But I also think that's potentially on it's almost like how many senses it interacts with and how it keeps you engaged. Because I've noticed at my new job that I work at now, there's a lot of stuff that I'm designing for making various different things. And because I feel really engaged in that, although I'm learning it, I'm still really engaged in it. I'm genuinely really enjoying what I'm doing. Time flies. And I've noticed that this last week especially, where my bosses were like, it's 3:30, do you fancy going home? And my contracted hours are till 2:30. So, 3:30 rolls around and I didn't even realise. There's no clock where I work. I mean, there is one clock which is upstairs and that doesn't work anyway. So I don't look at my phone. I don't have a watch. I'm not clock watching. So in terms of passage of time, I almost base it on the activities that I'm doing, which is really kind of bizarre because in my head, things take, 10 minutes. It takes 10 minutes to screw this together. It takes 10 minutes to mix 2 parts of silicon together. You know, I know that it's a 4-hour cure time, but once I've poured it, I just put it to one side and let it do what it's got to do. But those 10-minute kind of jobs, they're not 10 minutes. You know, they can be a lot longer sometimes, depending on what it is that I'm dealing with. And it just feels that some days, it just feels that I don't actually get much done in the time that I'm at work for. And I don't know if that's a true reflection of like my work done. You know, if my boss is to look at me, I don't know if they're looking at him going, oh, that's all he's got done in this time, and he was here until God knows what time at night, or whether it's actually reflected in, okay, yeah, he's been here all this time and he has done a lot. When you're the person doing it, it's really difficult to sometimes feel that you have done a lot. Other times, don't get me wrong, it's obvious when you know, you can clearly see stuff and you're like, yeah, we've achieved today. But I do find time to be a very scary thing, especially as you get older, because there's the other side of age, isn't there, where you continue to get older, and then, yeah, it's a tricky one. Where I live, I've lived here my entire life, and I'm surrounded by the same neighbours that I've had since I can remember. Like, my folks moved into this place when I was, what did we work out to be, like 4 months old? And all the neighbours that are around here have been the neighbours. Unfortunately, we've lost two across the road. And it's a really weird reality check. You know, everybody is in their 80s. And they're going to potentially start dropping. And when they do start to drop, they're potentially just going to go boom. And it's, you know, it's a situation that happens to everybody. And I think it's a very strange situation for a lot of people to deal with or talk about. Maybe not your neighbours, but, you know, family especially. It's always something that nothing can prepare you for it. And I suppose for me, the passage of time is looking at it, and my dad, and like, he's at retirement age now. And it's just hearing that and what that means. And then for me in my own position to look at everything, look at where I am, you know, and look at how much I feel I've screwed up and just let everything down. Like, my dad is now able to retire and I'm still here at home. Like, to me, that is just so, oh, I don't know, man. I don't even know what the word is. It just feels like I'm such a letdown. And it's tricky. It's a really, really weird one to process, because with those kind of events happening, it's an emphasis on life. And then, like I say, that's like then an emphasis on time and stuff like that. And it's the one thing that is limited with an unknown value attached to it. It is a very big deciding factor in everything. How long you spend doing pretty much everything that you do and what the payoff is. I think as a kid, I know that's why I never wanted to wear a watch. I didn't want to be constrained by this idea, you know, this concept of time. It felt life, even as a kid, it felt life was too regimented. You know, when we was at school, you had to be at class at a certain time. A bell would go off to say when you can have your break. A bell would go off to say when you finish your break. A bell goes off when you have dinner. A bell goes, you know. Everything was very, very structured around time. But I just don't feel that it's something, as weird as this is going to sound, I don't feel it's something that we as the human necessarily are built, not to deal with, but basically to deal with. Like, I understand that the rise and fall of the sun, if you like, is a great way to determine what we do and when we do it. But to the hour, to the minute, this kind of timing thing, it just felt, even as a kid, it felt very constricting. It felt like it was there to kind of put the brakes on you. And when I speak like that, when I think back of those times, it does make me realise how, like, when I was younger, I used to want to feel so free. And then as you get older, that freedom just, you realize it's not the freedom that you think it is. You know, it's freedom within parameters. It's freedom as long as you do certain things at certain times, you know, as long as you walk within that line, then you're free. No, it's not the freedom that you think that is freedom. It's not, you can just go out and just do whatever and don't have those constraints. Like, everything is there to kind of slow you down a little bit. But I do miss being bored. I'm not going to lie to you, I do miss being bored. Whether that's because I feel that I've always got to be constantly working on something now, or, you know, sort of constantly stimulated. Whether that's just because I've found things to do now which take up the time that I wish I could have for free, I don't know. But it is something that I've been thinking a lot on recently. The realization of how fast the days are flying past us as we're getting older is horrible. I was speaking to my dad about it, actually, and I say to him about how fast it feels like the day's going. And he just kind of looks at me and is like, mate, if you think it's fast at your age, just wait until it gets to, you know, my age, kind of thing. And as I feel here and now, my days feel like they are mere a few hours long. I don't even feel that they're 10-hour long at sometimes. So if it feels like that now, what must it feel like 30 years time? You know, a day's gonna feel like minutes, seconds. How aware do you become of how old you are when you get older as well, you know? I think my nan, bless her, she was very aware towards the end. I think your body tells you in one way or another. And it's with that in mind, it's like, you tell yourself, well, you should make the most of it. But I'll be honest with you guys, because a lot of you that watch this far, you know, you're pretty decent folk, you're pretty old school, and you know how these videos work. I'm kind of scared, you know, of trying to make the most of it. I think that's because of my experiences in life. They've made me really, I don't know, I'd say delicate is the best way to describe it. But I used to be quite carefree, and now it's like I'm very apprehensive about a lot of stuff. And one of the worst things that I can think of is leaving behind no stories. I think that's the best way to put it, you know, to have potential grandkids, or even my friends' kids that I'm seeing grow up and, you know, around as they grow up, to have no stories to tell them about life and even places that I've been to or experiences I've had. And they don't have to be wild party experiences like people will make you think like you got to go out there and have some absolute crazy drunken day and this event happened, oh, it's so wild. No, I'm not on about that. I'm just on about the nice things, the nice simple things, like that last weekend that I went away, you know. I got to see a nice little part of the country. Might not be everybody's cup of tea. It wasn't wild, it wasn't crazy, it was nice. It was crazy how flooded it was, but you have to have experiences. You do have to have experiences, but for some reason there's some part of me that will get so far towards that experience and then I just crumble away. And I found myself in a battle recently between, like I say, that element of time, and it's in so many directions, like time is running out and that pressure of like you have to do this stuff now, and then just taking that one extra step into that zone of fear. And there's a saying, and I can't remember it right now, it's about how, what is it, like greatness is on the other side of fear or something, or, you know, something positive is on the other side of fear. And the long story short of the little saying or whatever it is basically just when you feel scared, just when you feel frightened, just push yourself to do that a little bit more and it's all worth it. I just don't know how you do that. I've lost that part of me. There's so much that I used to be that I you know, it's gone. I don't know what crushed it. I don't know where it went. I don't know how to get it back. And that's something that really has been in my head a lot. Like, I'm speaking since the pandemic. Before that, I noticed there's little bits about my character that I'm like, why am I like this now when I wasn't like it back then? How do I get it back? And I don't have the answer for that. And it kind of annoys me because it feels like I've changed too much in the wrong way. And it's through life experiences. And I hate that I've had experiences that have made me feel less me. And I also know that I'm the only one that can change that. I don't know how to break out that kind of barrier of fear to find out who I was, find out who I am. Because the person that I'm grown up to be right now, yeah, okay, I understand, is the person who's been through all this stuff and is, I'd like to hope, not a bad person. But I feel that he's lacking in areas that there used to be. And it's like I look back over here and it's like, this person, I'd love to see where he would be now. The crazy thing is I am still that same person. I just gotta find it all again. I have no idea how.